Shayna Zweiback is one of the survivors. She was sick for weeks after contracting COVID last March, but thought she was turning the corner by May.
All of a sudden, later into June, early July, I just had a slew of new symptoms. Just severe muscle pain to the point that some days I didn't feel like I could walk. My legs hurt so bad.
The once fun-loving 26-year-old found herself here, months after her initial diagnosis at the Mount Sinai Center for Post-COVID Care in New York City, undergoing tests and treatment for persistent COVID symptoms.
I felt like no one was taking me seriously before, and because there was no founded historical medical evidence of COVID long-haul, I just didn't feel like I ever had a voice that people would listen to.
So for you, what does a good day look like?
Not having to nap, taking a walk down the block without needing to recover afterwards. It's tiny victories for me at this point.
Shayna is one of a growing number of people suffering from acute post-COVID syndrome. They're being called long haulers, people still experiencing debilitating symptoms long after having COVID. In the U.S., over 25 million people, 1 in every 13 Americans, has tested positive for COVID-19. Studies now estimating that about 10% of those patients have experienced long-term symptoms.
It's impossible for me to kind of go through and name every different system that kind of can be affected and patients can still be experiencing issues with fatigue, headaches, cognitive dysfunction, exercise intolerance, shortness of breath on exertion, feelings of temperature irregularities.
The virus and its lingering effects indiscriminate.
There was times where I felt like I was going to die.
From a 28-year-old soccer coach in Connecticut, unable to get out of bed.
Dizziness. I just had pure dizziness for about 6 to 7 months.
To 13-year-old Maggie Flannery. She contracted the virus last spring along with the rest of her family. Her parents and 2 brothers all quickly recovered, but Maggie is still dealing with symptoms.
Very lightheaded. My appetite has definitely decreased.
Yeah. And your chest?
And my chest pain is always there, and I have trouble taking a deep breath.
In Cartersville, Georgia, Shaun Evans is still feeling the pain triggered by a positive COVID-19 diagnosis. How do you feel today?
I'm okay. I feel a lot better than yesterday, but yeah, I feel okay.
Yeah, yesterday was tough.
Yeah, I had dialysis yesterday, and those days are usually a little bit harder.
Shaun says the virus not only attacked his lungs, but also his kidneys.
Dialysis is really hard on your body. And one of the worst things is muscle cramps. And it's something I've never felt before. Sometimes they get so bad to where, it's really painful.
COVID, it's like playing Russian roulette because you never know if it's just going to be mild symptoms or if you're going to end up on a respirator. Our favorite pictures.
It was early March when Shaun and Sarah were in the midst of planning their summer wedding.
We gave her a bucket of petals.
Dreams of walking down the aisle postponed after the 40-year-old father of 2 began experiencing the telltale signs of COVID.
It got so bad to where I couldn't even walk. I had all kinds of coughing, lost my sense of taste, smell.
For a week, he ignored the symptoms, but knowing he suffered from high blood pressure and diabetes, Shaun finally rushed to the emergency room.
Once I went in the hospital, they diagnosed me with pneumonia, the flu, COVID, and the main thing, was my kidneys.
End-stage kidney failure.
Yeah, it shut my kidneys down completely.
So you feel like what you're dealing with today is still tied, all of it, back to when you got COVID last year?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is a little bit more of the process of getting hooked up to the dialysis machine.
Almost a year later, his life upended and forever changed. He receives dialysis 3 times a week, each exhausting session 4 hours long. Shaun is now also awaiting a kidney transplant.
I won't be the same. I mean, even once I get a kidney, even with a transplant, they only last about, 15 to 20 years if someone were to donate a live kidney.
Play those math numbers.
Yeah,
what do we do when you're 60?
I'll be looking for another kidney or going back on dialysis again.
One medical journal citing that approximately 40% of COVID-19 patients reported temporary kidney damage. And while data is sparse and widely varies, another study reporting recovery rate is high, finding 84% of survivors fully regained kidney function. The full scope of the virus's long-term effects still remains unknown. For people like Diana Berrent.
Are you currently taking any medications on a daily basis?
No.
She believes part of unraveling the mystery lies in making sure we have accurate and up-to-date data. Berrent fell victim to the virus in early March at a time when COVID was still incredibly new.
I just knew it, even though the first person in all of New York City had only been diagnosed 12 days earlier. I knew that this was it.
Hi, it's Friday, and
realizing the lack of available information.
Hi everyone, this is day 8
Berrent started posting video diaries of her experience to educate others as she quarantined.
The road to recovery is not necessarily a straight line. It's kind of like one step forward, one step back.
Encouraged by the following she gained, Berrent decided to launch Survivor Corps, a nonprofit dedicating to crowdsourcing information from its members.
No data has been collected on the vast majority of patients like me who had what I call the Tylenol and Gatorade variety of COVID. What that meant was that people needed this group to reach out to one another to share information. And as a result, we ended up sitting on the largest data set on non-hospitalized patients in the world.
Berrent hopes the data her organization provides will help other COVID long haulers.
We are designing what we think is a template for best practices to create a foundation for a pathway to recovery for what a post-COVID care center should look like. What works, what doesn't work.
Despite the growing number of people struggling with long-term effects, there are still 19 states without post-COVID care centers.
The healthcare burden that we're going to face because of individuals that are requiring so much care with this condition is enormous.
Dr. Dana McCarthy is a rehab physician at Mount Sinai in New York. She's been treating patients at the Mount Sinai Center for Post-COVID Care, the largest of its kind in the country, while experiencing residual effects herself.
Every time I attempt to try to exercise, I get crushing fatigue and very severe headaches. So although I have those issues at present, there are many who are suffering from much worse.
When you first started seeing patients coming to you with these sort of symptoms, were they second guessing themselves and having some anxiety about whether what they were feeling was real and whether it was connected to COVID?
100%. At the beginning, we were still in the height of the pandemic in New York, and so many people were being hospitalized, but the people who weren't were kind of left to their own devices. So from the outset, right, they were not having access to care. And then when these symptoms kind of were prolonged and they would go in and they would have workups and things were coming back negative, they were getting sent home from the emergency department. Their primary cares didn't know what to do with them. And it became kind of this rhetoric of it is all in your head, unfortunately.
Despite the initial difficulty some have in getting COVID care, centers like Mount Sinai and others like it have become lifesavers for long haulers. And the patients that you're seeing, are they getting better?
They are, yeah. It's just very slow, extremely slow. And the problem is people trying to understand what it takes for them to get better. It's one, hearing it, two, processing, and then committing to actually having to change your lifestyle.
For Shaun Evans and his wife Sarah, life has been full of changes, including last summer when the couple made good on their promise to one another and got married. A silver lining for a family with a renewed appreciation for life and each moment spent together.
Every second counts. Even with her, she has to put up with me every day, but yeah, it means a lot more. Getting to be with the people you love, because you're not promised tomorrow, and when something like that does happen to you, you really realize what they mean to you, and you don't want them to doubt how much you truly cared for them.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.